Hello, thank you for tuning in to Kaieteur Radio. Kevin Smith here. These are the top stories we are tracking. Guyana alone stands financial risk of 900 million US dollars. Gas energy project sets RAM. EPA flip-flops on importance of updated EIA guidelines, and Top reports 70% increase in rape matters. Meanwhile, government comfortable paying oil companies taxes but runs after struggling broadcasters. Meanwhile, 16-year-old cancer patient succumbs to COVID-19, 7 children now hospitalized. And GEA gives license to fuel dealer caught smuggling from Venezuela. Vessel had been detained by neighboring naval authorities. Stay tuned to stay informed.
Guyana, have you heard of the resource curse? My name is Melina Harris and I'm a writer and journalist. I've been investigating the oil and gas sector and looking at the various impacts it's having on Guyana. Political, socio-economic and environmental changes are all happening right now. How will these changes impact you and how can you hold your government accountable? Tune into Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM at 6:30 p.m. this Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday to find out what the resource curse means for you.
And now for the news in detail. The Guyana government is pushing ahead with a gas-to-energy initiative for which, according to Chartered Accountant Christopher Ram, the country will be left to face all expenses, while any spending by the operator will be recovered from cost oil or cost gas. This was noted by Ram in his most recent public writings, even as scoping meetings are ongoing for the project by the Environmental Protection Agency subsequent to an application by ESSO for environmental authorization to go ahead with the project. Ram, in making his position public, pointed out that under the provisions of the PSA, the operator is required to include in the development plan of each oil field a plan for the utilization of the associated gas. According to Ram, the article goes on to provide that where there is any excess associated gas, the contractor is required to carry out a feasibility study regarding the utilization of such excess gas and to include it in the development plan for the oil field. He has since noted that a representative of the Ministry of Natural Resources confirmed that there is not one but several such development plans. And moving on. Since the EPA got rid of its updated 2020 guidelines for environmental impact assessments, the agency has changed its tune on their importance. It is now claiming that shelving guidelines will not affect the quality of the EIAs at all. The EPA said this in a media release on Thursday. We had pointed out that the removal of guidelines was done just 6 days before the agency announced a requirement for ExxonMobil to conduct an environmental impact assessment for the $900 million gas-to-energy project. This is an indisputable fact. Furthermore, the agency had said that it withdrew the guidelines to conduct consultations with stakeholders. And now let's tell you, despite recording a decrease in other serious crimes, a 70% increase was recorded for this year so far regarding rape matters. This was recently revealed by Acting Commissioner of Police Nigel Hoppy. The top cop made that disclosure on Thursday while speaking at the awards and incentives ceremony, where a total of 3,258 ranks and 28 community policing groups were awarded for their outstanding contributions in support of the Guyana Police Force. The Acting Commissioner of Police is not the only member of the Guyana Police Force who made such a disclosure. On June 15th, Commander of Division 4B Senior Superintendent Mahendra Sunarayan revealed that his district has seen an increase of rape matters when compared to the same period last year. In other news, the government of Guyana is paying the taxes of oil companies, but it appears comfortable going after local broadcasters struggling to make ends meet in a COVID-19 environment. This is evident through the actions of the Guyana National Broadcasting Authority, or GNBA, which on Thursday published the names of several broadcasters who have failed to pay their broadcast license fees, including the state media. The agency, in a public missive, said it has been very patient and lenient, but continues to face an arduous task of obtaining its fees from cable, radio, and television broadcasters. This notwithstanding, GNBA continues to face an arduous task of obtaining broadcast license fees. As such, GNBA said it wishes to highlight the financially non-compliant broadcasters and has since published a list of all the defaulting companies. And moving on, Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony yesterday announced that a 16-year-old child who was a patient of the COVID-19 ICU at the Lillian Dahl Infectious Disease Hospital has succumbed to the virus. The minister, who made the announcement during his daily COVID-19 update, said the child had a form of cancer and had died within the last 24 hours. This child is now the country's third youngest COVID-19 fatality since the pandemic reached these shores in March of last year. An 11-year-old who was diagnosed with cancer was the first young person to succumb, while a 17-year-old boy was the second. And now let's tell you the licensing practices of the Guyana Energy Agency, or GEA, continue to come under question following the issuance of a fuel transport license to a company that had its vessel seized in Venezuela for smuggling. The vessel was detained in neighboring Venezuela on March 11th of 2020. And in December, the local state council advised the GEA that no criminal charges has been laid. At the same time, the vessel was seized in Venezuela. That country's regional director general of the Ministry of People's Power of Energy and Petroleum had requested that the vessel's fuel be tested. It was found at the time that the vessel, Ms. Robin, had entered the Western neighbor's jurisdiction without notification, in addition to being without contracting shipping agency. And moving on, the Ministry of Agriculture has signed $115 million in contracts to boost the sector's performance. Of that amount, $26 million will go to the defunct Rose Hall factory. This project will bring the estate one step closer to becoming operational. Minister Zulfikar Mustafa said this act is in keeping with the government's commitment to the people. He further stated that when the administration was in opposition, it had said that it would reopen the closed sugar estates. And to wrap things up today, let's tell you, the Ministry of Health yesterday, in its release, reported that a 73-year-old woman from Region 4 who tested positive for COVID-19 died on Thursday. As a result of this, the country's COVID-19 death toll has moved to 507. Further, the ministry recorded 77 new infections, taking the total number of confirmed cases to 21,351. Presently, there are 8 patients in the COVID-19 ICU, 103 persons in institutional isolation, 1,068 in home isolation, and 5 are in institutional quarantine. To date, a total of 19,665 persons have recovered from the virus. And just before we wrap things up for your news at noon, let's head over to the page 7 of the Kaieteur News that is dedicated to being blunt. What is happening in this country that no one wants to answer any honest inquiry? When the news is sweet and positive, everyone is hurrying to knock down those who are standing in their way so that they can get to promote themselves. But when the news is rough and negative, they tumble people out of the way in their rush to the door, so as to avoid providing any answers or taking any position. Things are so strange that even the Guyana Police Force now marches to this drumbeat. Are we, the Guyanese people, ever going to be treated like sensible people? And with that, we've come to the end of today's News at Noon. Kevin Smith here. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's Newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-8210 today.
Dollars pre-contract cost. Guyana is now